NDE 1. I came back from my experience with a very clear message that suicide is not our choice to make. It is never an option. I think no one who has been there would ever risk not being able to go back. NDE 2. I fell to the floor in our bottom stairs bathroom. I remember being in a very dark place, pitch black. I was not afraid. I was just amazed by how dark this place was. I then felt the presence of other beings. I never saw their faces, however. I somehow knew that my grandmother and aunt were there, plus others I had no feeling about. They were behind me and kept telling me to go with them. I even felt them touching my shoulder from behind trying to get me to go with them. They insisted that I go with them. I became angry and told them I wasn't ready. I even yelled at them to let me go. I felt bad, ashamed, because I thought I had hurt their feelings. They seemed very sad. The next thing I knew was my wife was near me. She was crying. I remember telling her that I needed her to touch my face with her skin. I told her that if she didn't do that, I was probably going to die. I knew this with every fiber of my being. NDE 3. I was in a dark space. There were others around me, to both my sides, above and below me. The dark space I was in was almost soupy, filled with liquid mercury. I was floating in that mercury. There was a lighted doorway above me, and the light from outside that door flooded the vast room I was in. I was struggling to make it to the doorway, but somehow I then knew I couldn't make it yet. I realized I had to stay and help the people who were crying out below. NDE 4. First experience, I had been struggling with an abdominal infection for several months and no antibiotic worked. One afternoon, as I lay in bed, I knew that I was dying. I was rushed to the hospital and promptly fell into an altered state accompanied by a very high fever. At one point, I woke up and wondered why they had put me in such a tall bed. I was at least 8 feet off the floor and I could see my mother sitting beside the bed way down there. It was a brief experience and I fell into a coma. Second experience, I was recovering well from an abdominal surgery, but developed peritonitis. Again, I knew that I was dying, and suddenly, I found myself lying in a casket that was lined with white tufted satin, and all my family and friends were filing by, looking at me and crying. I was then pulled out and was presented with the option to stay or leave. I thought of my 2 sons and decided to stay. I was then told that I had a very special purpose and that I must always be true to myself. At that time, I was a rock musician and could not read or write music. A few months later, fully recovered, I sat down on night at my piano and fell asleep. When I awoke 10 hours later, I had a completed symphony before me. Since then, I have become an accomplished classical composer and conductor, and I find myself playing the role as spirit guide to many people. I feel that I am a walk-in.